Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Bunny and this is Bunny Awakens, where we talk all things spirituality, psychology, we talk about yogic philosophy, we talk about emotional intelligence, self-improvement, all the things that go into us becoming the best, most aware versions of ourselves. Today's video is going to be on negative self-talk. We're going to kind of chit-chat about where negative self-talk comes from, first of all, what is the root cause of it, and then we will move into what can we do to overcome negative self-talk? How can we transcend this little pain in the ass voice in our head that likes to belittle us and demean any kind of effort we try to take towards reaching our goals, or beats us up if we have a bad day and don't show up at 100% every single day? First up, where does negative self-talk come from? This was a topic that was suggested to me by a subscriber, and so thank you so much for that, subscriber. I love this video suggestion. It's something that I've certainly faced in my own life, of trying to overcome negative self-talk as I was striving towards achieving goals and becoming a more idealized version of myself. And I am someone who articulates myself best through writing, so I do have my laptop, and I took the time to kind of write about negative self-talk, my experience with it, and where I believe it comes from and how we can overcome it. So, negative self-talk is a learned behavior. As children, our minds start to form perceptions about the world, and we start to develop a sense of self. We create an identity. So we form this idea of who we are and how other people perceive us and how we feel about ourselves. This perception can ebb and flow, but in childhood, core beliefs are typically instilled in us that can often last a lifetime. We learn negative self-talk from others. It is a learned behavior, and we learn this from other people. There are two ways that we can typically form beliefs about ourselves, either as children or even as adults, either directly or indirectly. Now, directly would be a parent belittling us to our faces, or a peer, anybody who is directly talking bad to us, saying, you're annoying, you talk too loud, you talk too much. We start to actually internalize these things and believe that they are us. So if we're out at a party and we're constantly checking to be like, I'm not getting too loud, am I? Like, I don't want to be too loud. And we have that voice. It's like, oh, shut up. You're talking too much. We start to internalize these beliefs. Now, for an example, say we have a parent that is hypercritical of us and we are unable to make mistakes without being ridiculed. From this, we start to develop a belief that we are not good enough and that we cannot make mistakes. This kind of renders us bound to an idea that we must be perfect or we're unworthy. We wind up primed to strive for perfection instead of action or progress. This pressure often leads us to the all or nothing thinking, where we decide that if we can't do it perfectly, then we're not going to do it at all. Now, indirectly is through observation of how other caregivers, how our caregivers or other people that are fundamental to our development, friends, siblings, how they treat and love themselves. So say I have a mother who's hypercritical of herself. Maybe she doesn't allow herself to make mistakes without beating herself up, or maybe she makes negative comments about her body. Now, we look up to our parents, and as children, they're kind of like gods to us. We base our perception of the world off of them. So we learn how to interpret the world from them, and we learn how we should feel about ourselves from them. So if our mom doesn't feel worthy, we think, well, if she's not worthy, then how could I be worthy? Thus, we develop patterns of negative self-talk that stem from underlying beliefs of unworthiness and the idea that we must be perfect or we mustn't do it at all. Now, these patterns present on a neurological level as neuropathways. The more ingrained a neuropathway is, the more difficult it is to break. When a neuropathway is formed in the brain, we could kind of think of this belief. The best analogy I like to use, so I'm a skier, so I'm going to use snow. But if you've ever been sledding, you know how first time you push, you get pushed down the hill or you go down the hill, you make a track in the snow. And we're going to use this track that was formed as a thought pattern, or maybe like a negative self-thought loop that we have. And, if you go down up to the top of the hill and you go down again, you are most likely going to go down that same path because you're going to be, you've formed a groove, you've formed a divot. And so you're more likely to fall into that track. And it's the same way with a thought pattern. So if you have this belief in your head from childhood that you're unworthy, that you're not good enough, or, that if you make a mistake, you're just stupid, then anytime I make a mistake further in my life, when I get to the top of the hill, the first thing I'm going to do is fall into that groove of I'm unworthy, I'm stupid, and I'm not good enough. So, I think that this does turn into a vicious cycle of beating ourselves up. We beat ourselves up for not taking action towards our goals. And then if we do take action towards our goals, we criticize that action, we demean it, we kind of, I'd say we're very harsh on ourselves for the work that we did put out because it's not perfect. And so this becomes a vicious cycle that we find ourselves in. So that's where negative self-talk comes from. It is a learned behavior. It is something that we are taught. We are taught as children to base our self-worth off of the opinions of others a lot of time. Our parents give us feedback. If we're misbehaving, then we are a bad kid. And so we do internalize how other people perceive us as how we should determine our worth. And this usually carries with us into adulthood. It leads to things like people pleasing, berating ourselves with that little negative voice that it's like, if people don't like me or if I'm not doing everything perfectly, I'm not good enough. Now, that has been established of what is negative self-talk and where does it come from. Next, I want to move into how we can transcend this trap of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, and whatever I'm doing is not good enough. So the thing about negative self-talk is I'm going to use the example of the devil and the angel on your shoulder. I feel like that's a common thing we see of like, you got this one little guy who's kind of devilish telling you all these terrible things about yourself. And then you've got the angel over here telling you all these good things. Now, a lot of us develop the devil, but we don't develop the angel. And the first thought is, I want the devil to go away. Now, the devil is in place a lot of times to keep us from facing some kind of embarrassment, facing failure. It's kind of a default programming that we learn for survival so that we can acclimate into a society or in a community and be liked. So it's not necessarily something that we need to get rid of. So our instinct is, I just want to get rid of this voice. And perfectly normal response. However, we need to develop a counter force. We need to develop a more positive voice, a more angelic voice that combats and challenges those core negative beliefs that we have about ourselves. And the angel on your shoulder that is telling you positive attributes about yourself, about your work, about the things that you are striving to accomplish, and encouraging and energizing you to keep going towards your goals. So we don't want to do away with the devil. We're not trying to fight darkness. We're trying to add light. That's what we're trying to do when we are fighting this battle of negative self-talk. And over time, as we start to combat and challenge those beliefs, our dominant or default setting will start to change. So the little devil in your shoulder will start to essentially get weaker over time as we are enforcing this more angelic like voice against it, as we are kind of reprogramming our mind to, as we make a mistake, now I'm going to choose to speak lovingly, compassionately about myself instead of berating myself. So the voice will essentially diminish over time, that negative voice, and the more positive, delightful voice that we want to hear, that supportive voice, that will start to step in as our dominant default setting. So you kind of, anytime a negative thought comes into your head, say I have a goal of I'm going to college and I want to graduate college. It's coming down to finals time and I'm feeling just maximally overwhelmed right now. And I have this little voice in my head like, you can't do this, you're going to fail. We need to develop that angel voice. There needs to be a counteract to that neuropathway. We need to redirect that thought and we need to form a new path in the snow, which is you can do this. You're going to pass. You have everything inside of you to make this happen. You are smart. You are intelligent. That's the same thing. Or, well, you have intelligence. You are, hardworking. You can get this done. You're dedicated. You can show up and you can do this. We need to develop that good parent. If we didn't have that parent that was necessarily cheering us on all the time, it can be hard for us to find this voice, to find that positive parental voice. And that is what we need to do. So I challenge you at any point where if you are experiencing this negative little asshole, this devilish little guy on your shoulder who's telling you, you can't do this, you can't reach your goal, you're stupid, you're unworthy, challenge that belief. Don't try to get rid of it, or don't be like, I wish you weren't here. Develop the light, develop that angel that's going to be like, I am worthy. I am worthy of, living the life of my desires. I am intelligent enough to reach my goals, and I deserve to be loved. Developing positive affirmations. I think that's why there's such a push online right now about positive affirmations, and I love it. Affirmations are incredible. It is essentially creating a new neural pathway in your brain, a new set of beliefs that we can default to in the event that we make a mistake, in the event that we don't show up how we want to. Then instead of berating ourselves, belittling ourselves with this particular path that may have been ingrained in us early on, we can take the high road of developing that angelic voice, that voice that's going to tell us, you can do this. It's okay that you made a mistake. Mistakes happen. If you're trying to reach a goal, you're probably going to stumble around. That's okay. So those are my thoughts on negative self-talk, things that I've learned throughout my experience, and things that I wanted to share with you guys, that if you are struggling with negative self-talk, you're not alone. This is such a common thing that I think all humans experience, and we don't need to just get rid of that voice. We just need to develop a stronger voice that is encouraging and positive and loving towards ourselves, that is wanting us to reach our goals and assist us in being the best version of ourselves. So I think I'll leave that there. This was a little bit longer video than usual, but if you tuned in, thank you. I appreciate it. And if you want to give me a like if you found this video helpful, that'd be cool. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. We talk about all kinds of fun self-improvement topics on this channel, psychology. We talk about some yogic philosophy, things like that. So drop a comment down below. Tell me if this is something that you've struggled with in the past. And yeah, tell me anything you want to tell me, I guess. So I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you have a splendid rest of your day. And, if you're not, then guess what? Tomorrow is a brand new day full of all kinds of possibilities and potentials. So show up for yourself today because you deserve it.